Greetings, all you Jackson Janets, and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you what is still going to be called Steelers Talk until I find a better name for it. But this week, not a whole lot of Steelers talk. There's some XFL talk, some cool things going on in spring football leagues. But we have Laskers, we have Gingy in an off-season episode. Everyone should be happy and say hello to the boys.
Yeah, what up, Gingy in the house? We talking some football. Holy smokes, donkey! Sundays are there already, but like you said, we got some spring football and bounce around.
Lasker's in the house, and I spent my 3 o'clock on Sunday watching some XFL. It felt good to still watch some football.
It did. And to me, the most impressive thing is they've now had 5 games, including the game that happened yesterday on Thursday. 4 of those 5 games are last possession matters games, and that makes it more interesting to me. There's not blowouts. There's decent football being put on out there, and there are some interesting rules, some interesting players to keep an eye on that I think we'll get into later. But first, there is a little bit of Steelers news, Gingy. Bringing in Aaron Curry, former linebacker, has been coaching the last few years with Seattle. He's coming in to be the Steelers' new inside linebacker coach. What do you make of this move?
A move was needed. I think that's going to signal really a changing of the guard and inside linebacker personnel in Steeler land. Wouldn't you say, donkey? Does that mean Devin Bush catch you later? All that experiment's over?
I think so, but I think that's more because Devin Bush wants to leave. But the sadder part for me, Laskers, is this going to lead to Jerry Olszewski leaving, former Pitt farmhand, former Pittsburgh Steeler player, been coaching here about 10 years, end of a really long tenured player here. But let's be honest, the middle linebacker position has been kind of weak for the Steelers recently, Laskers. And we've been acquiring people who just always seem to underperform.
Oh, definitely middle linebacker's been a problem. But I'm not saying it would be the end of his tenure. That there's chances they could continue to keep him there or move him to another coaching position. It's hard to say until we hear what they're actually going to do. And from what I saw today, it looks like Tomlin's going on Lent, so he's not making any decisions on what's going on. So
That's fair. I guess he could move on. I mean, we did lose Mitchell, the assistant head coach, just kind of really didn't have a label guy who's been here forever. Legendary coach in his own right. Congratulations to him on a retirement and a great career coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course. But a little bit of player personnel news, keeping the special teams intact. Got to re-sign Chris Kunitz, long snapper. Any thought of that moving the needle anyway for you this offseason, Gingy?
Heck yeah. You always need a long snapper. And what are we talking about with that special teams unit, donkey? We need some improvement. I don't know if smart comes from your long snapper, but, if this is the first and the last time I hear his name ever, then he's done a great job.
If it's the last time I ever had to watch Danny Smith chew bubblegum on the sideline, I'd be happy. But we know that's not how it's going to happen here in the relegation of nothing going on at all. I was really hoping the Steelers would sign one of these available coaches to go out and really ramp up the offense, add some new things to it, but really no news at all on the coaching front. On the offensive side, which you could say is good if you're a fan of the way the season ended, or you could say bad if you're really lackluster of the way the play design was. Coaches I was looking for, guys like maybe bringing in Byron Leftwich to be in a passing game coordinator. Really the guy I wanted to see is Olsen, who just signed up there in Seattle, because if you know anything about him, you know that Drew Brees had a great year under him. Josh Freeman's only super year happened under him. He's a guy who has produced great quarterbacks dating all the way back to Jeff Garcia when he was having successful seasons. There's a guy who really seems to whisper to quarterbacks, and I've been saying this for a while. I wanted to see us add a coach who was going to push the development of Kenny Pickett. And the fact that we've been quiet and now past the Super Bowl makes me a little sad and a little scared that nothing's going to be added there. Gingy Laskers, do you feel there's going to be an addition, or you feel Steelers are just going to hold pat?
I feel status quo.
Standard is the standard.
I don't
Gingy?
know. Come on. Let's go grab somebody. We this is a great time of year for rumors, right? And
Yes.
one of the ones out there that I didn't like hearing actually is somebody talking about going and getting Jalen Ramsey. Holy smokes, that would be an expensive purchase. But really, if we're going to lose Cam Sutton on the secondary side of the ball, we absolutely need someone to fill that hole. We did this. We gave away our best slot corner 2 years ago. Finally developed
Mike
a new
Hilton
one.
is still hurting us.
Finally developed a halfway decent replacement for him. Still doesn't fill the shoes of Mike Hilton, especially in the blitz package, but probably about 80% fills the shoes. Now we're going to give him away too? Come on, donkey.
Probably the best outside cover corner we've had since Ike Taylor. And yes, we could argue the years of Hayden where he had one really good year and then one year where they really didn't throw at him because the other side was just god-awful. But yes, Cam Sutton has developed into a player you have to keep. And there's a lot of players that we haven't announced the cut yet that, to me, makes no sense. Let's be honest here. Miles Jack is getting paid as much money as it would take for us to retain Cam Sutton. Would you rather have Cam Sutton or Miles Jack? Well, he's
Cam
still
Sutton,
here. How about William Jackson III? We haven't announced his cut yet. He's owed $12 million. You rather have William Jackson III or Cam Sutton?
Cam Sutton.
The Steelers need to do this. They need to cut, and I think they need to make the move before Cam Sutton hits the open market. Because if we've learned one thing, the NFL will give out huge contracts to players if they're a position of need. People are now saying shutdown corner is the position of need. We need to lock him up, in my opinion, before he hits the ability to go talking free agency. Because, as you told me earlier, Gingy, there's rumors that he might be talking to Minnesota. And they have some space to make some deals.
They'd pay him. There's rumors that he could, I think he might be able to pull 10, 11 mil for 3 years on a good day. They really need a corner.
That's what his market value should be. If you look at the corners who were level in play last year, most of them signed in the $3-4 million or 3-4 year and $9.5 to $13 million range. I think that's where Cam Sutton fits. That's where he deserves to be paid. The way corners are getting paid, that's what he deserves. But I want to bring up a news story in the NFL I heard that beyond grabbed my interest. Danny Dimes, Gingy, thinks he is worth $45 million a year. In what universe would you ever pay Danny Dimes, who, by the way, is like a less talented Kirk Cousins, $45 million? Like, I understand Dak Prescott got overpaid. Cool. I understand Kyler Murray got overpaid. But what have those teams done since giving out these ridiculous contracts to mediocre quarterbacks? I mean, would you ever pay another quarterback who isn't named Patrick Mahomes, Gingy, if Danny Dimes is worth $45 million?
Well, let me tell you what I think about this story, Donkey. And this is not Danny Dimes' fault. He's a businessman. He's going out and trying to get his. Good for him. I don't know if he's worth it.
He can get it, more power to him, right?
But I'm going as a Steeler fan. I'm going to take the classic move here. And the rightful party to blame for all this madness is clearly the Cleveland Browns, because they broke the entire QB market by paying Deshaun Watson more than anybody's ever paid anybody
for no reason.
In the situation that he's in for last in the division.
Can I argue with you just for the sake of argument here, though? Yeah, I hear you on that, but Deshaun Watson showed glimpses of elite potential, okay? Who I want to blame for this, and yeah, I like that, it's Kirk Cousins. How the hell did Kirk Cousins get a record-setting contract? And then, to follow it up, how the hell does Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott get those contracts? It was Kirk Cousins first, and then it was Dak, and then it was Kyler. And then if you want to say quarterback saying you're going to guarantee me every dime I ever earn, fully guaranteed, which apparently is what Lamar Jackson wants now, yes, we will fully blame Deshaun Watson, because how the hell does a guy coming off over a year suspension get a fully guaranteed contract, Gingy?
We blame the Cleveland Browns.
Fair enough. But, all right, I know everyone wants to hate on the lack of touchdown passes from Kenny Pickett, right? He doesn't throw enough touchdowns to be this elite guy. Does anyone know off the top of their head the amount of touchdowns Daniel Jones threw this year? Because I do.
Give it to me, donkey.
15.
Yeah, I have no idea.
He started 16 games and threw 15 touchdown passes, and this dude thinks he's worth $45 million a year.
How did the Giants make the playoffs?
Solid defense and running games. And Gingy, there's this little secret that Donkey likes to say every year. Always beware of a last place team, because there's always going to be one last place team that makes the playoffs. Because when you play all the other crappy teams and you upgrade just a little bit, you look good. You don't believe that? Ask the Jacksonville Jaguars. That last place schedule is nice. It's why I was kind of hoping the Steelers would fall into that last place schedule and or make the playoffs. Instead, we just put ourselves, I'm going to just call it Steeler-tory, because it's like purgatory for football fans, where you're just perpetually not bad, but perpetually not great. So you're just stuck in this perpetual, like, should we try to suck, or should we get one more piece to be good? But hopefully we get out of Steeler-tory. I've said it 4 different ways now, so I'm not sure how it's going to go.
Steeler-tory.
But I just wanted to get your guys' take on Daniel Jones' contract. And let's be honest here. In a value-based system, where do you actually value Daniel Jones per year value?
Daniel Jones has a show to do me.
No.
Really?
Not at all.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched enough Giants to make a super definitive, but what I have seen, there are glimpses of good quarterback play there. Just crappy decisions. Baker Mayfield 2.0, and that ain't going to command no 45 milli.
No. Where do you think he fits, Gingy? If you had to pay Daniel Jones, he's going to be your quarterback, and you get to set the market value where you think is fair.
Holy smokes! I'm going to come up with a unique deal with him for real, because he will get paid out if he wants to make $45 million. All right, so we're going to incentive base this contract. We're going to see X amount of yards, X amount of touchdowns, X amount of wins. You hit those marks, you get what the money you asked for. If you don't, you hit base salary of right around probably above Mitchell Trubisky money, but not much higher. 12, 15, 12, 13, 15.
What do you think Mitch makes? AAV, if he would have been the starter, average value for the 2 years was going to be about $9 million a year if he hit incentives. I think it was about $7 million a year guaranteed. $9 million if he hits incentives as a starter.
Yeah,
so like I said, a bit more
number for him was 9.
A bit more than Mitch money, but not much. And because he hasn't showed me much more than that.
He's a good running quarterback. Last year, he only threw 5 interceptions, so he was smarter with the football. I don't think he's a top-tier quarterback. And when you look at – this is the reason I can't see 45. Franchise tag for a quarterback's $32 million on the first exclusive rights franchise tag. It's 32, I believe, is where it's sitting this year. He's not a franchise-tagged quarterback. I don't think he has – the elite passing potential that people seem to dream on with Kirk Cousins. Although I guess he was an earlier draft pick. He was a first-round draft pick. Been in New York. Finally had a successful year. If I was to pay him, it'd be a 3-year deal in the $20 to $25 million range is what I think his fair market value is. Laskers, I think you said, maybe you were just saying Mitch's, but you said you had him about 9. You pay him about what you paid Mitch?
Well, so I just looked up average salary. What do you think Joe Burrow makes? Just not subtract
crappy little, like $5 million a year because he was a first-round draft pick, early first, so maybe $8 million at most. But he's on a rookie deal.
It's 9 is what it is.
He's on a rookie deal, and that's why you have to win with quarterbacks when they're on rookie deals, unless his name's Patrick Mahomes. Because the wait right now was how much these quarterbacks are getting. It's nuts. I'm waiting for the first quarterback to actually guarantee themselves a certain amount of salary cap instead of per year number. Because as the salary cap goes up, you see these lesser quarterbacks starting to get paid. I mean, in what world would 2 years ago would Daniel Jones have even after this year he had been able to ask for $45 million? Because he would have been setting the quarterback market by about $6 million. Now at $45 million, he's not even the top paid guy at the quarterback market. I just have a hard time seeing $45 million because I'm going to ask you guys this question. Both these quarterbacks have a decent draft pedigree. Both these quarterbacks had a lot of failures. Both of these quarterbacks are coming off semi-successful seasons. Would you give more money to Geno Smith or would you give more money to Daniel Jones?
Geno Smith, without a question.
Geno Smith, yeah.
That's exactly what my thought was too, and that's why I don't see how Daniel Jones gets what he's wanting. But then again, how many times did I stomp my foot that you can't pay Kirk Cousins, and then Kirk Cousins got paid? So Gingy's right. He's going to get money. I doubt it's going to be the $40 million range, though. But that's all the NFL talk that I really had going on. Any stories from you guys about the NFL?
Nothing for me.
It's a weird story I saw on the internet about somebody talked to Ocho Cinco. Chad Ochocinco, former wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, had some things to say. Talked about living in the stadium during the first 2 years of his tenure at the Bengals. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Right? You go into work that morning, that boy is in there sleeping somewhere. I
was surprised. He did seem committed. I'll say that. He did seem like a committed type of guy.
Oh, in my mind, he reminds me of the early. He's the early version of AB. He's the guy who works his ass off, outworks everyone, talks a lot of smack, very annoying, very alpha, But at the end of the day, you can't deny good football player. But I just thought it was interesting that he lived at the Bengals stadium there.
I know they never really did anything against us, but he himself, Who's Your Mama, and Chris Henry, Rip, they gave me nightmares every time the Steelers had to play that trio of wide receivers.
Yeah, I agree. Classic TD celebrations as well. Some of the biggest ones of all.
T.O. and Joe Little Bighorn, baby. 3 guys I always remember. Get your popcorn and your Sharpies, Gingy.
Sharpies. That's too much.
But that leads us. Laskers, any NFL things for you? I guess we should go there first. Laskers, any fun stories for you?
I don't have anything this week.
All right, well, that leads us to the XFL. There's some intriguing names out there, some former Steelers out there doing some things. Not a whole lot of impressive things going on in the running games of any of these teams, which isn't surprising. Offensive line play takes a little time to gel, but close games all the time. Comebacks that were formed by three-point conversion potentials, onside kicks that when you're trailing in the fourth quarter, your onside kick is a 4th and 15, right, from your own 25?
Yes.
Really, really cool idea. I love it. There are some other ideas in there, but I thought the XFL has some name recognition. I mean, you're talking 2-time national champion A.J. McCarron's in there. At least I believe he's a 2-time national champion. But you're seeing some bigger names in there. You're seeing guys like Josh Gordon, Martavis Bryant try to make a comeback, Geronimo Allison. You're seeing actual names that NFL fans can recognize. I understand now you essentially have to have a cable package because most of the games now are on ESPN Plus or FX.
Let me interrupt you, Donkey, real quick. He was the 3-time national champion.
Yeah, I one up what I thought. You're talking, names that are out there, and they're on networks where you get to see. And my favorite part is they're this is why I like the XFL a little better than USFL. They're not just generic. They're doing some things out there. You have The Rock giving pregame speeches, and they're actually having football games in these host cities, which is something that's not happening when the USFL comes. I think it's a cool way to bring football there, but I think they need to find a better way to get some intriguing talent for long-term success. But I want to talk about rules that I think the NFL should look to implement. Gingy, I know you didn't watch, but Laskers did. First rule I like, the way the kickoff's handled. The two teams start, I think the one team starts at like the 35, the other team starts at the 30. They start 5 yards apart, at way down on the other side of the field, and the play doesn't start until the return man touches the ball. So you get rid of these full speed 40-yard sprint full speed contacts because the players are starting on top of each other, and it implements more likely to have kick returns. I really like that kickoff rule. Laskers, you watched it. What's your take on it? And Gingy, now that you heard it, what do you think about it?
I'll take it first. I actually really, really like it. It's going to definitely cut down on injuries on kickoffs. You know, that's a big thing in the NFL. People are always getting hurt because they're running full speed, and, you know, it's kind of pointless. And also, kickoff returns are a lot more fun to see. Now, I only watched one game. Now, I don't know if there was any kickoff returns because I'd have to do a lot more research. But, you know, I think the potential for a kickoff return is a much higher in the XFL than in the NFL.
Yeah, more returns happened. There was not really one for a touchdown. Gingy, what do you think of this rule?
I like the sound of that. I really like the idea overall, Donkey, that there's a professional league that can. I really think that more ought to be utilized from that in terms of being able to implement different things, take ideas, find a way to better football overall. And I really like special teams, to be honest with you. I think there's a big high impact, exciting part of the game there that I think really gets limited sometimes in the NFL with the new kickoff rules and stuff. So I like any way that you can bring that back in as a strategic part of the game while still maintaining player safety. Any way that you can maintain both those things is a win in my book.
I agree. Let's get into a special teams rule I hate. So when punting the football, if you kick the ball out of bounds inside the 35-yard line and or your punt goes into the end zone, it's a touchback to the 35-yard line. I think that rule is absolutely ridiculous and dumb because punters are taught to be able to pin people in the corner, and now you're punishing them for pinning people in the corner. Laskers, Gingy, thought on the weird punt rule?
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, you're trying to. The whole idea of a punter is you're trying to pin them in so that they have to start deep in their own territory. If you're going to start them, you know, at the 35 every time, that's just silly.
Yeah. And
this might be another.
Well, actually, Ginny, let me throw in one thing real quick.
Yeah.
You know, this might come in handy as a Steelers fan because, you know, we have Shanks-Eponymous. So, you know, what if he didn't make it to the 35? Do they still start at the 35? Because I don't think we saw that.
No, it's if it's kicked out of bounds between the 35 and the goal line, it just goes to the 35, or if it goes in the end zone.
Okay.
Yeah, for me on that, I try to think about why they might implement that rule, Donkey, and
they're trying to get more returns. They said it. They want to get more returns.
That's what I was thinking. That adds to the exciting offensive element of that.
I will tell you this: through 1 week, it didn't do anything but give touchbacks to the 35.
Yeah, punters haven't adjusted yet. There's going to be someone who figures out a way. Somebody's going to Bill Belichick this. You watch, Donkey. Somebody's going to figure this out. Somebody's going to figure out the formula on that.
Probably. Let's get into some other rules that I'm actually kind of a fan of. I like the 1, 2, and 3-point conversion idea. There's no extra points. You go for 1 from the 1-yard line, I believe. You go for 2 from the 5-yard line, and a 3-point conversion from the 10-yard line. You get to pick which one you want to do. I think that's a kind of cool rule. The 3-point conversion adds to more comebacks seen in there. And then to add on to the more comeback rule, and you guys can knock out both of them at once, is when you're trailing in the fourth quarter, you are allowed, instead of trying the onside kick, to go for it as 4th and 15 from your own 25-yard line. 2 rules I'm actually kind of a fan of is their conversion rule and their way to make an onside kick not an onside kick, but instead an exciting actual football play.
Yeah, I like the 1, 2, and 3-point conversions. Make it more interesting. And actually, me and Paul kind of had he didn't actually see the end of the St. Louis San Antonio game, which is the one I watched. And St. Louis actually came back.
What a way to lose.
Yeah, but I thought that was a really cool way to do it. I feel bad for San Antonio. They fought hard all game, but when it came down to the final minutes, they couldn't stop them. And that's what football is. If you want to win a championship, you got to have defense. We all are a proponent of that. We've all agreed to that. That's what the Steelers are. So, I thought it was a really cool idea to have a 3-point conversion and then also being able to do a 4th and 15 on your own 25 and drive down the field to win the game.
It was very interesting. Gingy, your take on what that potential looks like?
That for me, 1, 2, and 3-point. That's a difficult one. I have to think about that a little bit because I'll tell you what, 3 points changes the math, donkey.
I think a 3-point conversion in the NFL will have to be from the 20-yard line. I think they'd have to move it back more, in my opinion. But I think it should be something that, with the way we're trying to make this an offensive game and make points happen and let teams stay in the game because you want a competitive balance, I think it's a kind of cool idea.
It's a cool idea. You'd have to really update the formula, though, man. I mean, it's tough enough to figure out. Well, I can finally figure out when you're going for 1 versus when you're going for 2. When is
analytics say go for 2 almost
3?
Every time, baby.
Holy smoke. 3 as much as a field goal, that changes the whole math of the game when you score.
Right, and that's why you have to make it where it's far enough away where a conversion is like a highly unlikely thing, which is why I don't think a 10-yard play is fair. I think it has to be a 20-yard play.
Now, the other thing with the onside kick play for 4th and 15 in the NFL, that might need to be 4th and 25 at the 15 instead of the 25,
I like the 4th and 15 because it gives you a decent chance at conversion. I do like what you said, though. I think you should start at your own 10. I like the moving it back in the NFL. So
or 15, whatever.
If you convert it 4th and 15 from your own 10, that you still have to drive 70 yards.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one, if you convert this, you're only 60 yards away, or if you're kicking a field goal, you're really only 20 yards away. So, yeah, I like the idea of stacking them back farther. I like the distance. I actually think 4th and 15 is a great distance for it. What do you think about that, Gingy?
Yeah, it could work. 4th and 15. That's a tough. Like I said, I'd have to look at the math. I'd have to figure out how that works long term. So you're talking about a 9-point touchdown.
Potential. But what we're talking about is the onside kick. Instead of an onside kick, you get 4th and 15 from your own 25 is the XFL rule. But they would move it. I think you'd have to move to where you start back in the NFL. And then you'd have to see conversion rates, obviously, if it's... But the thing is, the XFL rule is you can only do it if you're trailing. So it's not like a team with a juggernaut offense can just keep going for it to not let it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I hate it.
It's only while
it makes
trailing.
An offensive-heavy team just a...
So here's your succession rate. In the NFL, for 4th and 15, it's 12.5%.
I like that. I would want it to hover right around 10%, so I like that.
Because that's right around what an onside kick percentage is, isn't it?
No, onside kicks are something like under 1. Since they changed the rule where you have to have equal sides, it got really low.
Yeah, well, so actually, because it came up, the standard onside kick, the success rate is 18%. For a surprise onside kick, it was 42%. Which I don't think you can do I don't think you can do a surprise anymore.
What are the real question is what are the attempts per year? Because that's a huge indicator too. Because I feel like a lot of teams don't try onside kicks simply because the chance of actually getting them is very slim. It used to be more feasible. I feel like it's got a lot less feasible. But I'd like an onside 3-point conversion. But let's get into some other things the XFL brought here.
So there were 56 attempts last year, and 3 were recovered.
Yeah, so that's less than 10% last year. That's not.
Yeah, it's 5.
That's not 18%.
No, but hang on. That was 5.3. And then 2021 it was 9 of 56. So same number of attempts was 16.1.
Yeah, so 4th and 15, averaging out right around the same percentage then as an onside kick presently, if you average the past 2 years, perhaps.
Right. No, yeah. It'd be a little more successful.
Which is kind of what they would be looking for in an offensive-heavy league. So to originally answer your question, Donkey, I hate it, but I can see the NFL going that way because I'm an old school Yinzer defensive way of life. But
NFL wants you to score points. You don't believe it? Look at all the games. Defense hasn't decided anything, at least not last year. Well, let's get into
38-35 Super Bowl.
One defensive turnover, and it wasn't really even caused. It was kind of just happened when a quarterback forgot the football.
Those teams put up at least 4 tuts.
The NFL should look into some of these things. I mean, I thought what impressed me the most, the XFL had really good production value. The games weren't as sloppy as I was expecting. It's an area for more coaching to get experience. And personally, my favorite part of the XFL is that everyone was mic'd. I am such an intrigue of how games are called, how this is happening. And the first game they had on television, where you get to hear the coordinators making the call and Greg McElroy breaking down everything that's happening from the offensive play call. Oh, he said this means they're going to do this way. I just loved that. I loved the idea of getting inside the football minds, figuring out what the coordinators are thinking, thank goodness for Greg McElroy giving such a great breakdown of everything, what they're looking to do. They're going to Omaha. They're going NASCAR. That means they're going fast. Breaking down everything. Breaking down the lingo. I just thought the way they mic'd up everyone was great. And more importantly to me, the transparency that the XFL had with the communication between the ref on the field and Dean Blandino in the replay booth was the best thing. You heard everything they were saying back and forth, why the calls happened, what Dean saw, what Dean's call is going to be off of what he saw. And then the last thing I want to say before I let you guys talk about these couple points I made, the challenge in the XFL is you can challenge anything you want. A penalty, a misplaced ball, a conversion, and you get a challenge till you lose it. Things that I actually thought were really fun and innovative in a new league, which is something you have to do to catch attention. Laskers, what did you think? You did watch a game.
I definitely did watch the game, but I was also not 100% paying attention to what you said.
Okay, so it's pretty much the transparency of you get to hear the play calls, which I thought was really
okay,
cool.
Yeah. Okay, no, I thought that was awesome actually because me and you text about that. I thought it was kind of nice that you could actually hear everything that was going on, and you the more we watch, the more you might actually understand what they're saying. Right now, the first games that we watched, you really don't know, but it's going to be cool as a fan to be able to be like, okay, here's what's going on. Now, the problem is they're going to be changing the calls every week because teams are going to be able to watch what just happened and they're going to hear those calls and be like, oh, they just did this, so this is what they're going to do.
Right,
but I liked it.
There's clearly universal calls because I'm not kidding. Last year's, you didn't watch the first game. But the first game, Greg McElroy broke down every play that was happening from the offense by hearing the things and certain letter cues that meant a play was going one way or another and what it was going to be, the type of run play was going to be. And I was like, I didn't realize how universal certain things were among football coaches, but that made it so. Gingy, your thoughts on the transparency that the XFL is bringing to football?
I like it. Donkey, I'm not sure why that ain't present everywhere. I think that last year has a point with strategic advantage. There's so many eyes on the NFL that somebody's going to try to find a way to take advantage of that in some which way, shape, or form. I really like it, though. I like the idea of transparency, especially when it comes to, determinations of calls, challenges. how the refs communicate, even not necessarily about agreeing with all the decisions that the refs make all the time, but at least understanding how they derive a conclusion is something I think I'm missing in the NFL.
Yeah, the I think the product itself was better for viewing. Obviously, the games weren't better because the play is a little sloppy. These guys haven't had even a full month worth of practices out there, so they're a little sloppier. But I thought the production value, the way the game played, was better. And there's one thing I'm going to point out here that I know the NFL will never do, but I loved in the XFL, and that was a running game clock. An incomplete pass doesn't matter. The play clock's going to run. The game clock's going to run when the ball gets set. I like that. I really think the NFL should look into that because these games are getting long, and honestly, it's hard to pay attention for as long as they are. It's why I support the pitch clock in baseball. These games just take too long. You don't have that much time to do. I loved the running clock idea. I think if the NFL did a running clock and a 30-second play clock, it wouldn't really take away very many plays, and it would make the game quicker, and it would just make these TV windows not have to be so long where every 1 o'clock game runs into the start of the 4 o'clock game because, oh my gosh, dude, the game's just so long.
Did any of you watch the Bills postseason game? Holy cow!
I probably took a nap.
I think that thing ran in an hour into the other game. I mean, it was ridiculous how slow that game was.
Yeah.
You know, though, Donkey, when the game gets shorter, you don't have as much advertising time to sell.
Yeah, but when your other game's overrunning your second market game, you also don't have it. And I get it. Essentially what you're saying is, Donkey, the regular season don't mean shit because there's football on from 8 to 8 for me, essentially. For me. For you guys, it's like from 1 to midnight, there's football on. But in the playoffs, Donkey, they want these long games because they sell more money. And you ain't wrong. I hear you. But as a fan, as a viewer experience, I'm just pointing out, I loved what the XFL did. I felt like it made the game more feel like there's a real flow always going because the clock's always moving. You're not sitting there for 30 minutes. It's why I like sitting down and watching a soccer game on Saturday morning because I know it's only going to take 2 hours of my time. I liked it. The predictability, you can clock out a time slot because you know how long it's going to take. I thought was really fun, just personally.
I agree, and I do think it's fun too. I'm just more the realist in terms of looking at that business aspect. I understand that they are definitely looking at production value and, well, how many eyeballs are they losing during that time? Is it worth a $2 million ad slot? Or 2,000 eyeballs worth a $2 million ad slot?
Just sell jersey advertisements like soccer does, and who cares? Because people are going to make a hell of a lot more money seeing AT&T across the front of a Steelers jersey than they were otherwise.
Exxon Mobil logo on the side of the freaking Steelers helmet. All right.
Shit. You don't mess with the helmets. It's clearly on the front of the jerseys. That's all I had. I actually really did enjoy the XFL, the way they are trying to change things. I'll see what the USFL brings when it comes around. But honestly, the USFL having a college football draft before the NFL draft made me laugh hysterically. Because if you're a fringe prospect, why in the hell would you go play in a spring league and risk injury before you get a chance to go play or potentially be drafted in the NFL? Where if you do get drafted as a seventh rounder, even as a seventh rounder, you're guaranteed more money than you are in the USFL. Like, come on now. That to me just made me laugh hysterically. But that's all the football news I have for this week. That's really all the sports news I have. Laskers, Gingy, any closing thoughts?
I don't think I have anything. I'm looking forward to watching a few more XFL games for sure. I guess that's my closing thought.
Heck yeah. Ditto. You sold me.
Give me
something to do on Sunday.
There's a game tomorrow too, Gingy.
Yeah. Saturdays and Sundays, yes. I think most of them are on FX this week. Some ones on ABC. If you have ESPN Plus, you get to stream them all. So there's that going on. Let's go shout-outs. Let's go Laskers.
Actually, I really do not have a shout-out at all this week because there's nothing much happening.
Fair. Gingy.
Oh, let's see. What kind of business we got going on in the NFL? Shout out Shout out to that Kansas City parade. I know we talked about the Super Bowl last week, but I like that Kansas City parade. You know, poo-poo on the people for Mr. Patrick Mahomes slamming himself back some Coors Lights during that parade. Just slamming him back just quite a few Coors Lights during that parade, actually. I know he wasn't on a boat like Tom Brady, but, you got to live with what you got in Kansas City, Missouri. So, there you
Get
go.
you some barbecue and have some fun.
Shout out to that and naysay to the haters.
Fair. I like it. My shout out this week is going to be to all the former Steelers I saw participating in the XFL. It was fun to see guys out there that I hadn't seen in a long time. Martavis Bryant, how about Heinz Ward coaching, Bruce Gradkowski being an offensive coordinator, Rod Woodson out there making a coaching debut, Tuzar Skipper, a guy I've always kind of hyped up because I love the name, got himself a sack on Thursday night. It was fun to see all the former Steelers out there playing, and just spring football in general gives me a nice shout out. But that's time to let you know I am the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger's a YouTube channel. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, leave us a follow, leave me a name for the show that entitles the fact that yes, we are Steelers fans. Yes, we love to talk Steelers football, but there's a lot more to it than just that, because as of right now, I just don't have a name for what I call the segment, so every week you're just going to get Steelers talk, hyphen whatever the heck is going on. Maybe Laskage and Gingy can help me out. I don't know, but we'll send it over that way.
You want me to go first, Gingy?
Do it.
All right, I'm Laskers everywhere, and just to clarify what Donkey said, it's FX for the first game tomorrow at 7, ESPN for the game at 4 on Sunday, and ESPN2 for the game at 7 on Sunday. Did I say 4 for the second game? Anyhow, it don't matter. And over to you, Gingy.
Here, nice call out on the games last year. Just Disputing Gingy. We hanging out. We talking football. We playing them games. Boys, it's in the off season, right? Holy smokes. Man, I can't wait for it to come back. Gotta have the XFL on the hand to try to get us through, but keep them towels warm. You know what? And even once in a while, pull them out, wave them if you got them. Here we go, boys.